The Saint of Fantasy Sleep Story, presented by Bedtime Stories. Make yourself comfortable, close your eyes, take a slow, deep breath. And now, let the story begin. In the heart of the world, nestled between the ancient moss-draped peaks of the shimmering mountains and the vast whispering expanse of the Dreamer's Ocean, lay the Vale of Whispering Willows. It was a place woven from starlight and quiet magic, where the river sang lullabies to the ancient trees and the very air hummed with a gentle, unseen energy. Elara lived in a small, cozy cottage at the edge of the vale, her home built of smooth river stones and roofed with thick, soft moss that always smelled of rain and earth. Every evening, as the sun dipped below the jagged peaks, painting the sky in hues of lavender and rose quartz, Elara would perch on her window seat, a cushion embroidered with silver threads that shimmered like captured moonlight. From there, she watched the stars ignite, one by one, in the velvet cloak of night. The stars in the Vale of Whispering Willows were not like stars anywhere else. Here, they seemed closer, larger, and possessed a unique, vibrant twinkle. Each one felt like a tiny, distant heart beating in the sky. Elara knew many of them by name, taught to her by her Nana Elara, who knew more about the stars than anyone in the Vale. There was the Hunter's Bow, a graceful arc of light, and the twin fawns, two bright specks that danced together. But her favorite, the one she always sought first, was the Heart Star of Ethel. The Heart Star of Ethel was a solitary pulsating beacon, set a little apart from the other constellations. It wasn't the brightest, nor the largest, but it had a warm, steady glow that seemed to anchor the entire night sky. Nana Elara said it was the oldest star, the first light to pierce the primal darkness, and that its steady beat was what kept the Vale's magic alive. One night, as the first chill of autumn began to creep into the air, Elara settled into her window seat. She traced the familiar patterns with her gaze, her small finger leaving trails on the cool glass. The Hunter's Bow gleamed, the twin fawns capered, but when her eyes found the usual spot for the Heart Star of Ethel, she paused. A tiny frown creased her brow. It was dimmer. Noticeably so. Not gone, not even fading dramatically, but its usual warm, steady pulse felt a little weaker, a little more hesitant. It was like a hearth fire that had dwindled to embers, still glowing, but without its former robust warmth. Elara watched for a long time, her breath misting the glass. She blinked, rubbed her eyes, and looked again. No, it wasn't her imagination. The Heart Star of Ethel was definitely not as bright as it should be. A quiet unease settled in her heart. She worried at it like a loose thread on her blanket, unable to shake the feeling that something was wrong. The next morning, Elara mentioned it to her mother while they were gathering dewdrop berries from the garden. "Mama," she said, her voice small, "the Heart Star, it's not as bright." Her mother, who had hair the color of sun-warmed honey and eyes like the deepest part of the river, paused, a basket of glistening berries in her arm. She looked up at the daytime sky, though the stars were, of course, invisible. "Is that so, little Bloom?" she said, her voice gentle, but a subtle worry flickered in her eyes. "Perhaps it was just a cloud passing, or your eyes were tired." "No," Elara insisted, shaking her head. It was different, like it was holding its breath. Her mother sighed softly, a sound like leaves rustling. "The stars have their own seasons, I suppose, even the oldest ones." But Elara saw the way her mother's gaze lingered on the distant peaks, a thoughtful, troubled expression on her face. Later that week, Elara noticed other changes, subtle at first, then more pronounced. The glow moss that usually carpeted the paths at night, illuminating their way with a soft, bioluminescent shimmer, seemed a little duller, its light a pale green rather than its usual vibrant emerald. The river, which always sang a lively, gurgling song, now murmured a quieter tune, its melody less joyful. Even the air, which typically carried the scent of sweet dew and ancient earth, seemed a fraction less vibrant, a whisper less magical. The unease in Elara grew. She knew, with the certainty of a child who feels the pulse of the world, that these changes were connected to the dimming Heart Star. The Vale was losing a piece of its magic, slowly, silently. She decided then that she needed to speak to Nana Elara. If anyone knew the secrets of the stars and the hidden rhythms of the Vale, it was her. The path to Nana Ilara's cottage wound deeper into the vale, past towering willows whose silvery leaves seemed to whisper secrets in the breeze. It was a path Ilara knew well, having walked it countless times for stories, warm milk, and comforting hugs. But today, the familiar journey felt different. The usual sparkle of dust motes dancing in sunbeams seemed muted, and the forest sounds, the chirping of leaf birds, the buzz of sun beetles, were softer, less numerous. Nana Ilara's cottage was a marvel, built into the base of an ancient, gnarled oak tree that seemed to hold up a piece of the sky itself. Its rounded stone walls were covered in a tapestry of emerald moss and flowering glowvines, which even now, in the afternoon light, held a faint, inner luminescence. Smoke curled lazily from its chimney, carrying the scent of wood smoke and dried herbs. Ilara pushed open the intricately carved wooden door, its surface worn smooth by generations of hands. The cottage interior was a warm, comforting haven. Shelves lined with strange and wonderful objects, polished river stones, dried flowers, feathers of exotic birds, tiny, intricately carved wooden figures, reached up to the ceiling. A large stone hearth crackled merrily in the corner, casting dancing shadows. The air smelled of sage, thyme, and old parchment. Nana Ilara sat by the hearth, her back to the window, her hands busy weaving a basket from supple willow branches. Her hair, white as mountain snow, was braided with tiny iridescent beads that caught the firelight. Her face was a map of gentle wrinkles, and her eyes, when she turned them to Ilara, were like ancient polished river stones, deep, knowing, and full of warmth. "Little bloom," she said, her voice a soft, rustling sound, like leaves in a gentle breeze. "I felt you coming," a little ripple in the vale's song. She patted the stool beside her, a stool that felt as if it had been carved from a single piece of ancient wood. Ilara settled beside her, feeling the familiar comfort of her grandmother's presence. "Nana," she began, her voice a little tremulous, "the heart star of Athel, it's dimming, and the glow moss, and the river, everything feels quieter." Nana Ilara's nimble fingers paused their weaving. She looked into the dancing flames, her expression thoughtful. "Ah," she murmured, a sigh escaping her lips. "So you've noticed my star-hearer. I had hoped the time was not yet upon us." She turned to Ilara, her gaze piercing yet kind. "You have a special connection to the stars, little one. You hear their whispers more clearly than most." "What's happening?" Ilara asked, her heart a little fluttery. Nana Ilara reached for a small wooden box on a nearby shelf, intricately carved with swirling patterns of stars and comets. She opened it, revealing a collection of smooth, dark stones, each one faintly glowing with an inner light. She picked one up, a stone the color of midnight, with tiny silver flecks embedded within it. "Our ancestors, the first people of the Vale, believed that the stars were not merely distant lights." Nana Ilara began, her voice dropping to a storytelling cadence. "They believed the stars were celestial blooms, living flowers that blossomed in the vast garden of the cosmos. Each star, when its time came, would wither and fade, but before it did, it would release a single precious seed." Ilara listened, captivated. "A seed?" "Yes, a starlight seed," Nana Ilara confirmed, holding up the glowing stone. "These seeds would drift down through the sky, carrying the essence of the fading star. And when they landed, if they found fertile ground, they would infuse the world with their star's unique magic. They would become the heart of new life, new light." She paused, her gaze resting once more on the hearth. "The heart star of Ethel, my dear, is the oldest and most vital of these celestial blooms. Its light is not just a light in the sky. It is the very pulse of the Vale. Its seed, the starlight seed of Ethel, is what nourishes all the magic here, the glow moss, the river's song, the very vibrancy of our trees and plants." A cold knot formed in Ilara's stomach. "Is the heart star fading because its seed is gone?" Nana Ilara nodded slowly. "A long, long time ago, when the Vale was still young, the heart star of Athel began to wane. Its seed, the most potent of all, fell to earth. But it did not find its rightful resting place. It was lost or perhaps stolen. The old tales are unclear. Without its seed to replenish its light, the heart star slowly began to dim. and with it, the magic of the veil began its slow. But if it was lost so long ago, why is it only now dimming so much? Elara asked, remembering the subtle changes. Because, little one, the magic of the veil is like a deep well. For generations it has drawn upon the residual power of the ancient seed, even in its absence. But wells, even the deepest, eventually run dry. We are reaching that point. The faint echoes of the starlight seed's power are fading, and the veil is feeling its true absence more keenly than ever before. Nana Elara's eyes held a deep sadness. If the heart star of Athel fully fades, and its seed remains lost, then the Vale of Whispering Willows will lose its magic entirely. It will become like any other valley, its willows silent, its moss dull, its river a mere trickle. The thought sent a shiver down Elara's spine. A vale without magic? It was unimaginable. A silent river, dull moss, silent willows. It would be like a song without its melody. But what can we do? Elara asked, her voice filled with a sudden determination. Can we find it? The starlight seed of Athel? Nana Elara smiled, a gentle, knowing smile that reached her eyes. Ah, there it is. The spark I hoped for. She reached into the pocket of her apron and pulled out a small, intricately woven pouch, no bigger than Elara's palm. From it, she extracted a pendant. It was a silver chain from which hung a single, smooth, obsidian dark stone, perfectly round, with a tiny, almost imperceptible shimmer within its depths. This, Nana Elara explained, fastening the chain around Elara's neck, is a moon petal charm. It was passed down through our family for generations, always to the one who could best hear the stars. It won't glow for just anyone, but for you, my star hearer, it might just whisper. As the cool stone settled against Elara's skin, she felt a strange warmth spread from it, a faint tingling sensation. She looked down at the charm, and in its dark depths, she thought she saw a tiny, fleeting sparkle, like a distant star winking. The old stories say, Nana Elara continued, her voice softer now, imbued with ancient lore, that the starlight seed of Athel, upon falling, did not rest easily. It was drawn to places of great natural power, places where the earth's own magic was strong. The very first clue, the legend's whisper, lies in a grove deep within the vale, a place where the moon petal flowers bloom only under the rarest of moon cycles. It is called the Moon Petal Grove. Elara remembered the Moon Petal Grove. It was a place her parents had warned her about, not out of fear, but reverence. It was said to be a sacred place, rarely visited, shrouded in a perpetual twilight even during the day, where the air hummed with a different kind of magic. No one has found the starlight seed in generations, Nana, Elara said, her initial determination mixed with a touch of apprehension. Why me? Nana Elara gently stroked Elara's hair. Because you noticed, little bloom. You listened to the stars when others were distracted by the everyday. You felt the shift in the Vale's heart. And because the legends also speak of a child, pure of heart and keen of ear, who would finally hear the call of the heart star and embark upon the quest to rekindle its light. She tapped the moon petal charm. This charm will guide you, not with directions but with a feeling, a warmth that grows stronger the closer you are to the truth. Elara clutched the charm, its subtle warmth a comforting presence. The thought of venturing into the sacred moon petal grove alone was daunting, but the image of a silent, lifeless veil was even more so. She couldn't let that happen. Not if she could help it. I'll go, Elara declared, her voice firm. I find the starlight seed. Nana Elara's smile widened, a beacon of hope. I knew you would, my brave one. But remember, this is not a journey for speed, but for patience. Listen to the whispers of the wind, the songs of the river, and the silent language of the stones. The veil itself will speak to you, if you are open to hearing. She handed Elara a small leather-bound satchel. Take this, some dried berries for energy, a small flask of spring water, and a piece of glow moss to light your way when the sun sets. The grove is not far, but the path is not always clear. Elara carefully packed the items into her satchel. Oh! The weight of it, light as it was, felt significant. It wasn't just berries and water. It was the weight of responsibility, of hope. She hugged Nana Elara tightly, breathing in the comforting scents of hearth and herbs. As the sun began its descent, casting long purple shadows across the veil, Elara set out. The moon-petal charm pulsed gently against her skin. The path to the moon-petal grove was less traveled than the one to Nana Elara's cottage, and soon the familiar glow moss, though dimmer, was her only guide. The air grew cooler, and the whispers of the willows seemed to grow louder, as if they knew of her quest. The river's song, though still quiet, seemed to offer a gentle encouragement. Elara walked with a mix of trepidation and excited anticipation. The weight of the charm, the quiet hum of the veil, the thought of the fading heart-star, it all spurred her onward. She passed beneath ancient, towering trees whose branches intertwined overhead, forming a dark, leafy canopy that filtered the last rays of sunlight into ethereal shafts. The deeper she went, the more the natural sounds quieted, replaced by a profound stillness, a sense of ancient magic settling heavily upon the air. Soon, the glow moss on the path became even sparser, and the twilight deepened prematurely under the dense canopy. Elara clutched her satchel, her heart beating a little faster. Then, through a break in the trees, she saw it. The moon-petal grove. It wasn't a clearing, but a space where the trees were even older, their trunks wider than her cottage, their branches reaching up like gnarled, silent guardians. And in the center, not yet blooming, but clearly visible even in the dimming light, were the pale closed buds of the moon-petal flowers, arranged in a perfect luminous circle. The air here was heavy, almost tangible, with a power she could feel humming in her bones. The moon-petal charm around her neck grew noticeably warmer. Elara took a deep breath, pushing aside her apprehension. This was it. The first step on her quest. She stepped into the quiet solemnity of the moon-petal grove, her eyes scanning the ancient trees, the waiting flower buds, searching for the first clue to the starlight seed of Athel. The true journey had begun. The true journey had begun. Elara's boots, usually so sure-footed on the familiar forest floor, felt curiously light on the path of compressed moonlight that wound deeper into the grove. The air, thick with the scent of night-blooming jasmine, and something subtly metallic, like distant starlight, shimmered around her. Here, the trees were unlike any she had ever seen. Their trunks were not rough bark, but smooth, polished silver, twisting skyward like ancient, petrified rivers. Their leaves, delicate and translucent, caught the faint, perpetual glow that emanated from the path and the very air itself, scattering it into a million dancing motes of light. It was as if the moon itself had taken root here, growing into a forest of pure luminescence. The moon-petal charm around her neck pulsed with a gentle warmth, a steady, comforting beat against her skin. It seemed to resonate with the grove, singing a silent song only she could feel. She walked slowly, her eyes wide, taking in every detail. Patches of moss on the silver trunks glowed with an inner, soft blue light, like captured nebulae. Delicate, bell-shaped flowers, translucent and pearly, hung from unseen branches, chiming faintly with every whisper of the wind, a breeze that felt cool and clean, carrying whispers of forgotten ages. She reached a clearing, a wide, circular space at the heart of the grove. Here, the ground was a mosaic of polished obsidian and mother-of-pearl, reflecting the ethereal light like a still pond. And everywhere, in intricate patterns and swirling designs, were the moon-petal buds. They were larger than she had imagined, each bud a tightly furled scroll of shimmering, opalescent petals waiting. They pulsed with a faint internal light like tiny sleeping hearts. They await the touch of true moonlight, a soft voice, like the rustle of silver leaves, whispered in her mind. It wasn't spoken aloud, but a thought, clear and resonant, directly implanted. Elara spun around, searching. Nothing? Nay. No creature, no hidden figure. Only the ancient trees and the silent, waiting buds. Or a heart that carries its essence, the voice added, a little closer this time, seeming to emanate from the very air around her. Elara looked down at her moon-petal charm. It was glowing more brightly now, a soft, unwavering white light. Could it be? Hair? Was the charm guiding her, speaking to her? She knelt beside one of the moon-petal buds. Its surface was cool and smooth beneath her fingertips. It didn't feel like a normal flower. It felt ancient. Ancient.ed. She thought of her grandmother's stories, of the moon-petal charm being a fragment of a greater magic, a piece of the moon herself gifted to the first Elara. What did the voice mean by a heart that carries its essence? She closed her eyes, trying to understand. She thought of the moon, its gentle glow, its quiet power, its unwavering presence in the night sky. She thought of her own wish to help, to restore balance, to find the starlight seed not for power but for healing. She thought of the hope that had sustained her through her journey so far. As these thoughts bloomed in her mind, a faint shimmer passed over the moon petal bud beneath her hand. It was almost imperceptible at first, like a ripple in water. Then, slowly, infinitesimally, the tightly furled petals began to unfurl. Ilara gasped, opening her eyes. The bud was opening. It wasn't a quick sudden burst, but a slow graceful unfolding, like a dancer stretching after a long sleep. Layers of opalescent petals peeled back, each revealing a new, deeper hue, from pale cream to silver, then a faint lavender, and finally, at its very heart, a core of pure, shimmering moonlight, no bigger than her thumb. It pulsed gently, like a tiny captured star. As the central light flared, a soft, melodious chime echoed through the grove, not from the bellflowers, but from the opening moon petal itself. And with the chime, a faint ethereal script, like spun moonlight, appeared in the air above the flower, hovering for a moment before fading. Seek the whisper wind's song, where the silver veins flow free. Only there shall the weaver reveal what is next to be. Ilara quickly committed the words to memory. The whisper wind's song, silver veins. She looked around. Were there other clues? She touched another bud, focusing her intent, her quiet hope. This time, the unfolding was faster, more confident. Another chime, another line of script. This continued, bud after bud, until she had a full flowing poem, each line appearing above a freshly bloomed moon petal, its heart glowing brightly. The entire clearing began to glow with the combined light of the opened flowers, casting intricate patterns of shadow and light on the silver trees. The air hummed with a renewed energy, a joyful, resonant vibration. Here was the full message. Seek the whisper wind's song, where the silver veins flow free. Now, Kao, Kanadvandiken, Conley, there shall the weaver reveal what is next to be. Wanishi, beyond the grove, where the star moss clings, hung to the ancient echo tree, softly sings. Catch seen by mortal eye, hupsil. Why it's for a heart that dares to fly. And nanin yoma no selman, may. Follow the current, where dreams ignite, all meadow nasiwas and ere. Through twilight's veil, and endless night. Ananda, atinde. I for the starlight seed, a truth profound, wa. In the ethel's slumber shall be found. One nil. But first, the song, the veins, the call, or darkness shall consume us all. Ande. The final line hung in the air, waited with a chilling solemnity before fading. Ilara felt a shiver trace its way down her spine. Or darkness shall consume us all. The stakes were higher than she had imagined. Her moon petal charm, having guided her through the blooming, now settled back to a gentle warmth. The flowers remained open, their cores glowing, illuminating the clearing like 1,000 tiny moons. You have a pure heart, little one, the soft leaf rustle voice returned, this time with a distinct presence. Ilara turned slowly, her gaze drawn to the largest of the silver trees at the edge of the clearing. It was ancient beyond imagining, its trunk broader than any she had ever seen, its topmost branches lost in the ethereal glow overhead. From a knot in its bark, a figure began to coalesce. First, a shimmering outline, like heat haze, then a faint green glow, slowly solidifying into a form that was undeniably alive. It was a being crafted from the very essence of the grove, skin like polished silver bark, hair like woven moonlight and moss, eyes like deep pools reflecting the starlight. Garlands of luminous vines and moon petals adorned its form. It moved with the grace of a willow in a gentle breeze, its limbs fluid, its presence radiating a serene ancient wisdom. Welcome, Ilara of the Sunstone Keep, the creature said, its voice still a whisper, but now localized and gentle, carrying the scent of damp earth and blooming night flowers. I am Lyra, the bloom keeper of the moon petal grove, I have watched over these sacred flowers for more ages than the stars have counted. Elara curtsied awkwardly, feeling a flush creep up her neck. Elder Lyra, she murmured. Thank you for the guidance. I didn't realize the flowers were meant to be red like that. Lyra smiled, a slow, luminous expression that made the very air around her seem to brighten. The moon petals reveal their truths to those who seek them with an open heart. Many have passed through this grove, seeking power, seeking glory. Few have truly listened to the whispers of the light. She gestured to the glowing flowers. You listened with your spirit, Elara. That is why they bloomed for you. The poem. It speaks of a whisperwind's song, silver veins and a weaver, Elara said, trying to organize the information. And the echo tree, and Twilight's veil. It sounds like many journeys ahead. Indeed, Lyra affirmed, her silvery eyes thoughtful. The path to the starlight seed of Athel is not a single road, but a weaving of ancient mysteries, each requiring a pure heart and a discerning spirit to unravel. The seed is not merely an object. It is the very heart of the world's balance, the source of all ethereal light and life. Without it, the world's magic would wither, and the encroaching shadow, known as the gloom, would consume all. Elara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cool air. The gloom? My grandmother spoke of it, but only in hushed tones. Is it a creature? Lyra's luminous smile faded slightly, replaced by a look of grave concern. The gloom is not a creature, Elara, but an absence. It is the void left when light and magic abandon a place, a creeping emptiness that devours life and hope. It has been held at bay for centuries by the starlight seed's radiant power. But its influence has begun to spread, whispers of its chill reaching even here, to the heart of the grove. The seed weakens, for reasons we do not yet understand. This is why you must. The weight of her quest pressed down on Elara, heavier than ever before. She was not just finding a magical artifact, she was fighting to save the world from an encroaching darkness. I will do my best, Elder Lyra, Elara said, her voice firm despite the tremor in her heart. But I don't know where to begin. Whisperwind's song, where the silver veins flow free. What does that mean? Lyra stepped closer, her form shimmering slightly as she moved. The silver veins are the ancient underground rivers of pure moonlight that nourish this entire region, flowing from the heart of the moon itself. They feed the grove, they bring life to the star moss, and they power the echo tree. One such vein surfaces just beyond the grove, forming a shimmering stream. Follow it. It will lead you to the Whisperwind's song. And the weaver? Elara asked. The weaver is a guardian, a keeper of ancient knowledge. She dwells where the Whisperwind's song is strongest. She will test your spirit, Elara. And if you prove worthy, she will offer you the next clue. Lyra paused, her gaze piercing. Be warned, the weaver is not easily swayed. She values truth and clarity above all else. Do not seek to deceive her, for she can see into the deepest corners of your heart. Elara nodded, taking a deep breath. I understand. I will be truthful. Good, Lyra said, her smile returning, a little brighter this time. Before you depart, Elara, there is something I must impart. The moon petal charm around your neck is more than a guide. It is a conduit. It connects you to the grove, to the moon, and to the ancient magic of this land. As you travel, learn to listen to its hum, to feel its pulse. It can draw upon the essence of the moonlight around you, offering a gentle shield when needed, or Lyra extended a hand, her fingers slender and translucent. A small luminous orb of light, like a miniature moon petal heart, floated from her palm towards Elara. This is a fragment of the grove's own energy. It will rest within your charm, amplifying its connection to the moon's wisdom. Should you ever feel lost, or the path obscured, hold your charm and focus on the light within. It will help you see the truth. The orb drifted towards Elara's charm, merging seamlessly with it. The charm pulsed, radiating a more intense, yet still gentle, warmth. Elara felt a subtle shift within her, a quiet awakening of something dormant. She felt more connected to the world around her, as if a veil had been lifted. Thank you, Elder Lyra, Elara said, her voice filled with genuine gratitude. I will cherish this. Go now, Elara, Lyra urged, her form beginning to shimmer and soften around the edges, slowly receding back into the ancient silver tree. The journey is long, and time is not on our side. The whisper wind awaits. As Lyra's form fully dissolved back into the tree, the luminous moon petals in the clearing slowly, gracefully, began to fold their petals inward once more, returning to their budded state. The intense glow softened, leaving the clearing bathed in the previous ethereal twilight. It was as if the magic had receded, waiting for the next seeker, the next moment of truth. Elara took one last look at the beautiful silent grove. She felt a profound sense of wonder, but also a new, steelier resolve. The quest was real. The stakes were immense. She touched her moon-petal charm, feeling the quiet strength now thrumming within it. She turned and followed the moonlight path as it led out of the clearing, deeper into the forest. The silver trees eventually gave way to more conventional, though still ancient and majestic, evergreens, their needles dark and velvety against the luminous glow of the path. The air grew cooler, carrying the faint scent of pine and damp earth. Soon the path broadened into a wider track, illuminated by patches of glowing moss that clung to the roots of the trees. And then through a break in the foliage she saw it. A river. But not a river of water. It was a river of liquid moonlight, flowing with a silent, graceful current. Its surface shimmered with every hue of pearl and silver, reflecting the unseen stars above. It flowed not over rocks and pebbles, but over a bed of polished obsidian and quartz that pulsed with its own faint light. This must be one of the silver veins Lyra spoke of. The entire atmosphere around the river was different. A soft humming sound filled the air, like 1,000 tiny bells ringing in perfect harmony, carried on a gentle, invisible current. This must be the whisper wind's song. It wasn't a sound heard with the ears alone, but felt deep in the chest, a soothing vibration that resonated with her very bones. Following the silver vein, Elara felt a sense of purpose guiding her steps. The river wound its way through a part of the forest she had never known existed, where the trees grew exceptionally tall, their branches interlaced so tightly overhead that they formed a perpetual, dim twilight. Here the star moss, mentioned in the moon-petal poem, truly thrived. It clung to every surface, tree trunks, fallen logs, rocks, glowing with a myriad of tiny star-like points of light, illuminating the path with a soft, cosmic radiance. The air grew heavy again, not with apprehension, but with a different kind of power, ancient, slow, and deeply rooted. The whisper wind's song grew louder, a chorus of ethereal whispers and gentle chimes, weaving in and out of the rustling leaves. It felt as though the very forest was singing to her, telling tales of ages past. The silver vein widened here, forming a tranquil pool that reflected the star moss and the dark canopy overhead like a mirror to another sky. In the center of this pool, rising from the water like an island, stood a tree unlike any other. Its trunk was gnarled and vast, covered in intricate carvings that seemed to shift and change in the glowing light. Its leaves were not green, but a deep shimmering indigo, and from its branches hung delicate crystalline chimes that swayed gently, even in the absence of a visible breeze, adding their voices to the whisper wind's song. This was the echo tree. As Elara approached the edge of the pool, the whisper wind's song seemed to coalesce, drawing her gaze to a hollow in the echo tree's enormous trunk. A figure sat within, almost imperceptible at first, so perfectly did she blend with the ancient wood and the flowing moonlight. She was slender and graceful, with skin the color of twilight shadows and hair like spun silver mist, adorned with tiny, luminous dewdrop gems. Her eyes, open and unblinking, were pools of deep, knowing indigo, reflecting the star moss and the silver vein. Her hands, long and delicate, moved with precise rhythmic motions, weaving threads of pure light and shadow into an invisible tapestry that shimmered around her. This was the weaver. Elara felt a sense of profound respect and a little trepidation. This being radiated an aura of quiet power and immense wisdom. She remembered Lyra's warning. She values truth and clarity above all else. Do not seek to deceive her, for she can see into the deepest corners of your heart. Taking another deep breath, Elara stepped forward, into the full embrace of the whisper wind's song, towards the silent weaving figure. The next step of her quest, and perhaps the greatest test of her honesty, lay before her. Elara's steps were soft upon the luminous moss, each one drawing her deeper into the heart of the chamber, where the very air thrummed with ancient magic. The light here was not from any visible source, but seemed to emanate from the woven tapestry itself, shifting and breathing with an inner vitality. As she drew nearer, the figure became clearer. A being of ethereal grace, cloaked in robes that seemed spun from twilight and dew. Her hands, slender and elegant, moved with an almost hypnotic rhythm, coaxing shimmering threads from the air itself. These threads, Elara now saw, were not merely light, but strands of pure essence. Some glinting with the gold of memory, others shimmering with the silver of dreams, and still others pulsing with the deep sapphire of unspoken truths and fears. The Whisperwind's song was weaving the very fabric of existence, or perhaps the fabric of consciousness. Her face, framed by a cascade of hair like spun moonlight, was serene, ageless, and devoid of judgment, yet her eyes held the depth of 1,000 starry nights. They were the color of the deepest indigo, flecked with luminous dust, and as Elara met their gaze, she felt as if a gentle, probing current flowed through her, not invasive, but seeking understanding. No words were spoken. The only sound was the faint, melodic thrum-thrum of the threads as they intertwined, a rhythm that resonated deep within Elara's own chest. She stood before the weaver, her heart a steady drum against her ribs, her breath shallow but even. She had prepared for questions, for a challenge, for a direct confrontation. Instead, there was only this silent, profound presence, and the endless dance of light and shadow in the woven tapestry. Then, without a perceptible movement, the Whisperwind's song seemed to shift her focus. A single strand of shimmering silver, plucked from the air, extended towards Elara, coiling gently around her wrist. It was cool against her skin, not binding, but connecting. Immediately, a sensation unlike any she had ever known bloomed within her. It was not a voice, but a knowing, not a command, but an invitation. Show me, Pendel. Onaimde. An. And with that silent invitation, the air around Elara began to warp. The soft ambient light of the chamber intensified, focusing on her, and the woven tapestry behind the Whisperwind's song seemed to expand, its intricate patterns swirling, drawing Elara's gaze. The threads began to shift, to coalesce, forming images not on the surface, but within the very essence of the light. The first image that formed was a memory, stark and vivid. Elara saw herself as a young girl, no older than 10, standing at the edge of the Whispering Woods, a forbidden place even then. Her small hand clutched a stolen trinket, a carved wooden bird, taken from the workshop of old Master Thorn, a kind but frail artisan. She remembered the thrill of the defiance, the quick pulse of fear, and then the crushing guilt that followed. She had never confessed, never returned the bird. It lay now, still hidden in a dusty chest beneath her bed in the village. A wave of shame washed over Elara, hot and prickling. She felt exposed, vulnerable. This was a trivial thing, a childhood misdeed, yet it felt monumental under the silent, knowing gaze of the Whisperwind's song. The woven image pulsed, waiting. She values truth and clarity above all else, Lyra's warning echoed. There was no escaping this. Elara swallowed hard, her throat suddenly dry. I stole that bird, she confessed, her voice a reedy whisper in the vast quiet. From Master Thorn. I wanted to feel brave, I think, or perhaps just rebellious, but I knew it was wrong. I kept it, and I never told anyone. I never apologized. As the words left her lips, the image on the tapestry brightened, then softened, its sharp edges blurring into a gentle haze. The shame lessened, replaced by a profound sense of release, as if a small, heavy stone had been lifted from her heart. The silver thread on her wrist pulsed with a gentle warmth. The Whisperwind's song remained silent, her fingers continuing their graceful dance. But the tapestry shifted again, and a new image began to form. This one was not from her distant past, but from more recent memory, from the very beginning of her quest. It was the face of her mother, pale and drawn, her eyes clouded with the encroaching sickness. Elara saw herself kneeling beside the bed, holding her mother's frail hand. Her mother's voice was barely a whisper. Find the heartwood nectar, my child. Only it can cure the blight. Then, the scene shifted. Elara was standing before the village elders, her face resolute, her voice ringing with conviction. I will go, she had declared. I will find the heartwood nectar. I will save my mother, and I will save our village. But as the image solidified, a new, shadowy layer began to form around it, like mist clinging to a mountain peak. It wasn't exactly a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth. Elara felt a familiar discomfort, a tightness in her chest. She had spoken those words, yes, and she did desperately want to save her mother and her village. But there was something else, something she had buried deep, even from herself. The shadows on the tapestry pulsed, swirling with hints of ambition, of a longing for something more than a simple village life. A desire for adventure, for purpose, for recognition. The quest, while born of love and necessity, had also offered an escape, a path to a destiny she had always dreamed of, but never dared to voice. This was harder than the stolen bird. This was not a simple misdeed, but a complex tapestry of motivations, some noble, some selfish, all tangled together. To unravel them felt like tearing a piece of herself apart. The Whisperwind's song's gaze was unwavering, her silent invitation still resonating in Elara's mind. Show me. All of it. I know. Elara took a shaky breath. I am Doe want to save my mother, she began, her voice cracking slightly. More than anything, and the village from the blight, but that's not the only reason I took up this quest. She paused, gathering her courage. I longed for it. For the adventure. For the chance to prove myself. To be more than just Elara, the baker's daughter. I wanted to be a hero. The last word was whispered, tinged with a self-conscious embarrassment. As she spoke, the swirling shadows on the tapestry began to recede, dissolving like smoke. The image of her mother, and of the determined young Elara, remained, but now it was clear, unblemished by the internal conflict that had previously obscured it. The silver thread on her wrist glowed with a brighter, steadier warmth. A profound sense of relief washed over her, deeper than before. It wasn't about being good or bad, she realized, but about being whole. About acknowledging the multifaceted nature of her own heart. The Whisperwind's song dipped her head fractionally, a silent acknowledgement. The tapestry continued its intricate dance, and a new pattern began to emerge, more abstract this time, less a direct memory, and more a reflection of Elara's deepest fears and uncertainties about the path ahead. It was a swirling vortex of green mist, sickly and suffocating, representing the blight that gripped her village. Within the mist, faint shadowy figures writhed, the villagers suffering, their faces contorted in pain. But closer, more prominent, was a single, larger shadow, unmistakable in its form, her mother, fading, dissolving into the very mist itself. This was her greatest fear, failure. The fear that despite all her efforts, all her courage, she would not be enough. That the heartwood nectar would be out of reach, or too late, or simply not powerful enough. The fear that she would return to a village in ruin, to a mother lost forever, and that the blame would lie solely at her feet. A cold dread seeped into Elara's bones, tightening its grip around her heart. She felt the familiar pang of self-doubt, the whisper of inadequacy that had haunted her since childhood. You're not strong enough. You're not clever enough. You're just Elara. The Whisperwind's song's gaze seemed to intensify, not in judgment, but in profound empathy. The silver thread pulsed, a gentle anchor in the swirling tempest of her fear. Truth, little one. Speak your truth, even the hardest ones. Elara's breath hitched. To voice this fear, to give it form, felt like inviting it into reality. But she knew instinctively that to hold it back would be to fail this test entirely. I'm afraid, she confessed, her voice barely audible, raw with emotion. I'm so afraid I won't succeed, that I'm not capable enough, that the blight is too powerful and I'm just a girl from a small village, walking into a world I barely understand. Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes, blurring the shimmering tapestry before her. I'm afraid of losing my mother, and of failing everyone who put their trust in me. Of returning with nothing. As the last word escaped her, a strange phenomenon occurred. The swirling green mist on the tapestry, rather than intensifying with her fear, began to thin. The shadowy figures within it, including her mother's, did not vanish, but became less tormented, their forms clearer, as if the very act of speaking her fear had given it shape, and therefore a boundary. The vortex settled, becoming a static image of the blight, still present, but no longer overwhelming. The dread in her heart lessened, replaced by a quiet, determined resolve. She had acknowledged her fear, and it had not consumed her. The whisper wind's song finally paused her weaving. Her slender fingers rested on a section of the tapestry, a place where threads of gold, silver, and sapphire now intertwined with perfect harmony, reflecting Ilara's journey through truth. Her indigo eyes, deep as the cosmic ocean, met Ilara's. And then, for the first time, she spoke. Her voice was not a whisper, but a melody, soft and resonant, like wind chimes played by a gentle breeze. "Truth," she sang, each word a note, "is the strongest thread. It weaves the soul whole, and strengthens the path ahead." She gestured towards the tapestry. "You carry within you the light of honest intent, Ilara. A noble desire for healing, tempered by a human longing for purpose. And you possess the courage to face your deepest fears, which is the truest form of bravery." The silver thread around Ilara's wrist detached itself, coiling back into the air, but the warmth remained, a subtle glow beneath her skin. "Your quest for the heartwood nectar is just," the whisper wind's song continued, her voice weaving itself into Ilara's heart. "But the path is not merely one of finding a physical remedy. It is a path of understanding, of balance, and of connection." She shifted her gaze, her eyes now seeming to look beyond Ilara, into the unseen. "The blight that afflicts your village is but a symptom of a deeper imbalance, a disharmony in the flow of the world's energies, caused by a growing disconnect between the realms of the living and the spirits of the land." Ilara listened intently, her mind racing to absorb every word. "Spirits of the land," she murmured, remembering old tales Lyra had told her, stories of dryads and undines and ancient guardians. The whisper wind's song nodded slowly. "For generations, the people of your valley have relied upon the bountiful gifts of the land without truly honoring the spirits that nurture it. The ancient pacts, once renewed with ritual and respect, have been forgotten. The heartwood nectar is indeed a powerful remedy, but its efficacy is waning, for the very source of its power, the elderwood, is weakening, its connection to the land spirits frayed." Ilara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. This was far more complex than she had imagined. "So, even if I find the nectar, it might not be enough?" "It will offer temporary respite," the whisper wind's song confirmed. "But to truly heal the blight and prevent its return, the balance must be restored. The spirits of the land must be reawakened, their voices heard, their presence acknowledged once more." She extended a hand, and a single luminous thread, spun from pure starlight, detached itself from the tapestry and floated towards Ilara. It settled gently into her palm, cool and weightless, a shimmering silver-gold light. "This is a thread of connection," the whisper wind's song explained. "It will guide you, not always with a clear path, but with a subtle pull towards places where the veil between worlds is thin, where the spirits linger. You must seek out the whispering groves, the crystal springs, the sunken caves, places where the land holds ancient magic, and where the spirits have not yet completely retreated." Ilara gazed at the thread in her hand. It pulsed faintly, a living light. "What do I do when I find them? How do I reawaken spirits?" "With truth, Ilara," the whisper wind's song replied, her voice soft but firm. "With genuine intention, with offerings of respect, songs of remembrance, and deeds of reconciliation. But most importantly, with an open heart willing to listen, to understand, and to mend the broken bonds." Her gaze softened, a hint of ancient sorrow in its depths. "The first such place lies to the north, beyond the sunken marshes, nestled amongst the ancient peaks, known as the Grey Fang Mountains. There, within a hidden valley, lies the Whispering Cascade, a waterfall fed by pure glacial melt. It is a place where the spirits of the mountain peaks still gather, albeit faintly." Ilara felt a surge of apprehension, but also a renewed sense of purpose. This quest was larger, more profound than she had ever imagined. It was not just about a cure, but about healing the very fabric of the world. "Go now, Ilara of the honest heart," the whisper wind's song sang, her melody gently urging. Let the thread of connection guide you. Listen to the whispers of the land, and remember that even the smallest act of truth can weave the greatest change. As the last note faded, the chamber around Elara began to subtly shift. The ambient light softened. The vibrant hues of the tapestry seemed to recede, becoming once again a distant, shimmering wall. The whisper wind's song, still serene, returned her focus to her eternal weaving, her fingers once more coaxing strands of light from the air, each one a silent promise of ongoing creation. Elara bowed deeply, clutching the luminous thread in her hand. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice filled with a profound gratitude. She turned and began to retrace her steps, the soft moss cushioning her feet. As she walked away from the silent weaver, she felt lighter, yet also heavier, burdened by a greater understanding of her task, but also empowered by the clarity she had found. The path to the heartwood nectar remained, but now, a new, deeper quest lay intertwined with it, the restoration of balance, the reawakening of the land's ancient spirits. The thread in her hand pulsed, a faint beacon. North, beyond the sunken marshes, to the Greyfang Mountains and the Whispering Cascade. A new journey awaited, demanding not just courage, but a listening heart and a truthful spirit. The thread in her hand pulsed, a faint beacon. North, beyond the sunken marshes, to the Greyfang Mountains and the Whispering Cascade. A new journey awaited, demanding not just courage, but a listening heart and a truthful spirit. Elara took a deep breath, the chill of the evening air sharpening her resolve. The journey north began with the sunken marshes, a place whispered about in hushed tones, known for its shifting ground and the strange lights that danced among the reeds. As she stepped from the solid earth onto the marsh's edge, the ground softened beneath her boots, giving way with a sucking sound. A thick, pearlescent mist hung low, obscuring the path, making the reeds on either side loom like skeletal fingers. The thread, however, shone brighter here, a steady pulse of warmth against her palm. It guided her, step by careful step, across moss-covered hummocks and precarious stretches of bog. Strange, bioluminescent fungi glowed faintly from the trunks of gnarled ancient willows, casting an eerie, ethereal light. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and unseen blossoms. Hours melted into a timeless trek. Wah! The sounds of the marsh were a symphony of clicks, croaks, and the soft rustle of unseen creatures. It was in the heart of this spectral landscape that Elara encountered her first true test. The mist thickened around her, swirling into indistinct shapes, and a faint, mournful whisper seemed to echo from all directions. It was a sound of deep sorrow, a lament that tugged at her own heart. Following the thread, which now vibrated with a gentle urgency, she came upon a small, clear pool, ringed by luminous water lilies. Floating on the surface was a creature unlike any she had ever seen. A sprite woven from mist and moonlight, no larger than her hand, its wings shimmering with iridescent dew. But this sprite was not dancing. It was weeping, its tiny form racked with silent sobs. Elara knelt, her heart aching with empathy. "Little one," she whispered, her voice soft and true. "Why do you weep?" The sprite startled, its luminous eyes wide with surprise, then fear. It tried to dart away, but its movements were sluggish, burdened by its sorrow. "I mean you no harm," Elara continued, holding out her hand, palm open. "My name is Elara. I am on a quest to reawaken the land's ancient spirits. Perhaps your sadness is a part of the imbalance I seek to mend." The sprite hesitated, its shimmering form quivering. Slowly, it drifted closer, drawn by the warmth of her truthful spirit. The song is gone," it whimpered, its voice a faint chime. "The marsh once sang with joy, with the rustle of our games, the splash of our laughter. Now, only silence and forgetting. We try to remember, but the notes slip away like mist through our fingers." Elara listened, truly listened, to the sprite's sorrow. She understood then. The forgetting wasn't just in the great spirits, it was in every small creature, every patch of land. "The song is not truly gone," she said gently. "It is merely sleeping. Perhaps if we remember together it can awaken." She sat by the pool, and instead of trying to coax the sprite, she simply shared the quiet of the marsh, her own steady presence a comfort. She thought of the beauty around her, the glowing fungi, the resilient reeds, the courage it took for even a tiny sprite to exist in this vast world. She hummed a simple, wordless melody, a tune of comfort and quiet hope that came from her own heart. Slowly, tentatively, the sprite began to mirror her, not humming, but allowing a faint, silvery trill to escape its lips. It was a small sound, but it was a beginning. A tiny spark of forgotten joy flared within the sprite. Its luminescence brightened, and a faint, sweet scent of lilies filled the air. "Thank you, Elara," the sprite chimed, its sadness receding like the morning mist. "You have reminded me that even a single note can begin a melody. The Grey Fang Mountains await. Follow the river that feeds the marsh. It flows from the whispering cascade. Be wary of the path, for it is often hidden, but trust in the whispers." With a final joyful pirouette, the sprite vanished back into the mist, leaving behind a faint, sweet echo of its song. Empowered by this small victory, Elara continued, her steps lighter, her heart more open. The marsh eventually gave way to rising ground, and soon the faint murmur of a river reached her ears. Following its winding course, she felt the air grow colder, crisper, and saw in the distance the imposing, jagged peaks of the Grey Fang Mountains, their summits shrouded in ancient snow. The river narrowed, its current growing stronger, until it plunged down a sheer cliff face, forming the magnificent whispering cascade. It wasn't just water. It was a torrent of shimmering light, each droplet catching the faint, unseen magic of the air, creating a dazzling, ever-changing curtain of liquid starlight. And within its roar, Elara could distinctly hear them now, the whispers. Not words, but a cacophony of soft sighs, gentle murmurs, and faint, echoing laments, the slumbering voices of the ancient spirits. The thread in her hand glowed steadily, leading her directly to the base of the cascade. There, hidden behind the veiling sheet of water, was a cavern entrance, slick with spray but surprisingly dry within. As she stepped through the water, a hushed silence fell, the roar of the cascade muffled to a gentle sigh. The cavern was vast and naturally sculpted, its walls gleaming with damp mineral deposits that caught the faint light filtering through the cascade. In the center, a perfectly still pool of water reflected the spectral light, and by its edge, nestled amongst luminous mosses, was a figure. It was a dryad, ancient and regal, her form woven from bark and leaves, her hair a cascade of silvery moss. But her eyes were closed, her face serene yet etched with a profound weariness, as if caught in an endless, dreamless sleep. This, Elara knew, was one of the great spirits. The thread pulled her gently towards the dryad. Elara knelt, placing her hand gently on the spirit's moss-covered arm. The moment her skin touched the dryad, a surge of knowledge flooded Elara's mind. She saw visions, eons of the land's history, seasons of growth and decay, the joy of bustling life, the deep calm of winter. And then, the slow fading. Not a sudden blight, but a gradual dimming. People had stopped listening to the rustle of the leaves, stopped noticing the patterns of the stars, stopped feeling the pulse of the earth. Their hearts had turned inward, their minds preoccupied with smaller, human concerns. As humanity forgot, the land's magic, its spirits, slowly receded, pulling a veil of slumber over themselves, not out of anger, but out of a deep, sorrowful exhaustion. The dryad's eyes fluttered open, revealing irises like ancient amber, filled with timeless wisdom and a faint, lingering sorrow. Her voice, when she spoke, was like the rustling of dry leaves, soft and ancient. "You carry the truth in your heart, little one. You have heard the whispers and felt the sorrow, the heartwood nectar. It is indeed vital, but it is not a cure, merely a catalyst. It must be activated by the song of the land, a song that has been forgotten." "How can I remember a song I've never known?" Elara asked, her voice filled with earnest hope. "The spirits are the notes of this song," the dryad replied, her gaze piercing. "To reawaken them, you must remind them of their purpose, their connection, and their joy. Not with words alone, but with actions that resonate with the land's ancient heart. Share joy, offer sorrow, show courage, and demonstrate truth. Each act is a note, a verse in the forgotten melody." "And the heartwood nectar?" Elara asked. "It is at the very summit of the Grey Fang Mountains." The dryad gestured vaguely upwards. "Guarded by the stone sentinel, it is a test not of strength but of resolve and understanding. Only a heart truly attuned to the balance can retrieve it." Elara bowed her head in understanding. The true quest was not just to find the nectar, but to embody the qualities needed to wield its power responsibly. "I will return," she promised. The ascent of the Greyfang Mountains was a formidable challenge. The air grew thin and cold, the path treacherous. Snow-capped peaks loomed above her, testing her physical endurance. Yet with each step, Elara felt her spirit grow stronger. She met smaller spirits along the way, a shimmering ice weasel who had lost its way, a grumpy mountain gnome whose hoard was in disarray. She didn't offer grand solutions, but simple, genuine help, guiding the weasel back to its family, helping the gnome sort his precious, sparkling pebbles. She listened to their tiny grievances, offered empathy, and in doing so, offered small sparks of remembrance. Each time, a faint warmth spread through the cold mountain air, a tiny note added to the growing song. Finally, after days of arduous climbing, she reached the jagged, windswept summit. There, carved into the very peak of the mountain, stood the stone sentinel. It was a colossal figure, a silent guardian hewn from the living rock, its features stern and impassive. Before it, on a natural pedestal of obsidian, rested a single crystal goblet, shimmering with an inner light. Within it, the heartwood nectar pulsed, a liquid gold that seemed to thrum with ancient life. As Elara approached, a deep, rumbling voice resonated from the sentinel, not from its mouth, but from the very rock of the mountain itself. "Who approaches the heart of the Greyfang? What purpose drives your climb?" "I am Elara," she declared, her voice steady despite the biting wind. "I seek the heartwood nectar to reawaken the land's ancient spirits and restore balance to this world." "Balance," the sentinel rumbled. "A word easily spoken, rarely understood. Do you know the weight of such a task? Do you know the cost of power, even power for good?" "I understand that power, like all things, requires responsibility," Elara replied, remembering the dryad's words, the sprite's sorrow. "To wield it is to serve, not to command. The land does not belong to me. I am merely a part of it, seeking to help it remember itself." The sentinel's gaze, though unmoving, seemed to pierce her very soul. "The land has forgotten itself indeed. It has forgotten that true strength lies not in dominion but in harmony, that the greatest power is to listen, to understand, and to offer truth without expectation." A faint tremor ran through the mountain. "You speak with a truthful spirit, and your heart has listened well. The heartwood nectar is yours to take, but remember, it is only a key. The lock is the land's forgotten song, and you must play the melody." With a final deep sigh that echoed across the peaks, the sentinel fell silent. Elara approached the pedestal, her hand trembling slightly as she reached for the crystal goblet. The nectar was cool to the touch, vibrant with an energy that hummed through her veins. It felt like holding pure moonlight, distilled and alive. Carefully, she made her descent, cradling the precious nectar. The journey down felt swifter, imbued with a new sense of purpose. She returned to the whispering cascade, to the cavern where the dryad awaited. The dryad's amber eyes brightened as Elara approached, carrying the nectar. "You have returned," she whispered, a hint of ancient joy in her voice. "The key is found. Now for the song." Elara presented the goblet. "How do I play the melody?" The dryad extended a gnarled hand, beckoning Elara to the central pool. "The nectar must touch the heart of the land, and your heart must guide it. You have shared joy, offered sorrow, shown courage, and demonstrated truth. Now, you must weave them all together. The veil of slumber is not evil, but a lack of connection. You must remind the land of its own interconnectedness, its own vibrant living tapestry." Elara knelt by the still pool, the heartwood nectar glowing in her hands. She thought of the little marsh sprite, its initial sorrow and its spark of renewed joy. She thought of the ancient trees, the silent mountains, the rushing river. She closed her eyes and instead of trying to ego something, she simply felt. She felt the earth beneath her, the water beside her, the air around her. She opened her heart, letting flow through her all the empathy, the courage, the truthfulness she had gathered on her journey. She shared her joy for the beauty of the world, her sorrow for its slumber, her courage in facing the unknown, and her truth in wishing for its healing. Then, slowly, deliberately, she poured the heartwood nectar into the center of the pool. As the golden liquid met the water, it didn't mix. Instead, it expanded, a wave of shimmering, liquid light spreading outwards. The pool began to glow, then hum, a deep, resonant vibration that filled the cavern. The whispers of the cascade outside grew louder, no longer laments, but rising in a crescendo of harmonious sound. The dryad beside her stirred fully, her eyes wide with wonder. Her bark-like skin seemed to soften, her leaves unfurled, vibrant green and bursting with life. She rose, her form now radiating a gentle, verdant light. "The song begins," she breathed, her voice now like the rustle of a summer forest. The light from the pool intensified, flowing out from the cavern, through the whispering cascade, and down the river. Elara felt a profound connection, as if her own heart were beating in rhythm with the land. She looked out from the cavern entrance, and witnessed a breathtaking transformation. Colors deepened, sharpened. The Grey Fang Mountains, once stern and gray, now sparkled with crystalline light, their ancient rock seeming to pulse with life. The river itself glowed with an inner vitality. Down below, in the distance, she could see the sunken marshes, no longer shrouded in an eerie mist, but alive with a soft, warm luminescence, the bioluminescent fungi shining like 1,000 tiny stars. The air shimmered with energy, carrying the scent of awakened earth and blooming magic. From the trees of the surrounding forests, luminous forms began to emerge. Ancient treants, graceful sprites, mischievous pixies, all stirring from their long slumber, their eyes wide with rediscovered joy. They began to dance, to sing, their voices weaving into the grand forgotten symphony of the land. The very air vibrated with their awakened magic, a song of life, growth, and vibrant interconnectedness. The veil of slumber lifted, dissolving like morning mist in the sun. The dryad turned to Elara, her eyes shining with gratitude. "You have done it, child of a listening heart. You have reminded us. You have given the land back its song." Elara felt a warmth spread through her, a sense of deep peace and belonging. The thread in her hand, its purpose fulfilled, gently dissolved into sparkling motes of light, carried away on the newly vibrant breeze. She had sought the heartwood nectar to save her village, and in doing so, she had helped to reawaken the entire world. She looked out at the transformed landscape, no longer burdened by the vastness of her task, but filled with the quiet joy of accomplishment. She had not fought a great evil, but simply remembered what had been forgotten. The balance was restored, not by force, but by kindness, by truth, by a listening heart. As the sun began to set, painting the newly vibrant sky with hues of rose and gold, Elara knew her journey was complete. She would return to her village, not just with the heartwood nectar, but with a deeper understanding of the world, a connection to its ancient magic, and a heart full of the land's own song. She would carry this wisdom, becoming a guardian of the whispers, a teller of truths, ensuring that the land would never again fall into slumber. For now, under a sky ablaze with newly reawakened stars, Elara felt the gentle embrace of a world made whole again, and finally, peacefully, she rested.